When Donald Trump was running for president, you may remember this, he had a question he loved to ask, a particular thought experiment about a tete-a-tete between Vice President Harris and President Xi. And it went like this.
Kamala Harris is so incompetent. Can you imagine her dealing with President Xi of China? Can you imagine her dealing with President Xi? Can you imagine with President Xi? Can you imagine her negotiating with President Xi of China? Can you imagine her standing with President Xi of China? I don't think so.
Can you imagine? He said that so many times. I mean, Trump spent that campaign railing about China's influence in the world, and he repeatedly insisted that he alone was the only candidate tough enough to go toe-to-toe with President Xi of China. He was the only person who could show Xi who's boss. Well, Donald Trump just finished his first state visit to China in his second term, and how did it go? Did big, bad Donald Trump stand up to the Chinese leader?
We have a friendship, really. He's a tremendous leader. He's been here a long time, very powerful, very strong. There's no doubt about it. I say about him that if you went to Hollywood and you looked for a leader of China to play a role in a movie,
central casting.
He's central casting. You couldn't find a guy like him. Even his physical features. You know, he's tall, very tall. I'll get criticized. They always criticize me when I say good things about certain leaders, and this one. But he's a leader for China. He's led almost 1.5 billion people for a long time, and he's respected.
Can you imagine if Kamala Harris was president? Could she lavish the leader of the Chinese Communist Party with praise like that? Would she be able to capture what a tall, beautiful autocrat with movie star look she is with the same gushing prose? I don't think so. I don't think she has that in her. Okay, so Donald Trump didn't exactly put on his tough guy American first routine for President Xi as he claimed he would do throughout the campaign, but maybe that's okay. After all, Trump has just plunged our country into a disastrous and protracted war with Iran. The Strait of Hormuz has been closed for 77 days now, driving up global oil prices and forcing Americans to pay a whole lot more when they fill up their gas tanks. Maybe Trump is focused on getting President Xi's help to reopen the strait and fix Trump's big mess. Doesn't make a ton of sense, but maybe that's where his focus is. Any progress on that front?
President Xi would like to see a deal made. He would like to see a deal made. And he did offer, he said, if I can be of any help at all, I would like to be of help. Because,
he did say that.
Yeah, he did say that. And look, anybody that buys that much oil has obviously got some kind of a relationship with him. But he said, I would love to be of help. If I could be of any help whatsoever, he'd like to see the Hormuz Strait open. He said, if I could be of any help whatsoever, I would like to help.
Well, hey, I mean, even Sean Hannity sounded a little surprised there. Did you catch that? As you should be, because China has no real incentive to help end this war. But Trump says President Xi agreed to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Maybe something, maybe, miraculously will come out of this after all. Now, all Trump has to do is seal the deal with those trademark negotiating skills he's always bragging about. Any luck with that one?
Did President Xi make any commitments to put pressure on the Iranians to reopen the Strait of Hormuz?
I'm not asking for any favors, because when you ask for favors, you have to do favors in return. We don't need favors. I didn't ask him to put pressure because, I don't need favors.
Literally on the flight home from China, where he did the interview with Sean Hannity. So no help with the Strait of Hormuz then. Cool. I guess Trump's biggest international blunder will continue to just blunder along for now. But then again, this trip was about more than just fixing Trump's latest scripts. It was about reaffirming the U.S.'s position on big decades-long issues. Issues like China's claim over the country of Taiwan. For years now, people have been worried that China may try to invade Taiwan and take the country by force. And even Trump's immediate predecessor, the man Trump loves to criticize as weak, took a harder line than U.S. presidents had in some time.
Would U.S. forces defend the island?
Yes, if in fact there was an unprecedented attack.
To be clear, sir, U.S. forces, U.S. men and women, would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion.
Yes.
So what did tough on China Donald Trump have to say about the issue of Taiwan on this trip?
You know, I think the last thing we need right now is a war that's 9,500 miles away. I think that's the last thing we need. We're doing very well.
Would the U.S. defend Taiwan if it came to it?
I don't want to say it. I'm not going to say that. There's only one person that knows that. You know who it is? Me. I'm the only person. That question was asked to me today by President Xi. I said, I don't talk about those things.
Trump says he's not going to talk about his position on Taiwan, although I kind of feel like he sort of did tell us his position in the first part of that clip. Let's just play that part again.
You know, I think the last thing we need right now is a war that's 9,500 miles away. I think that's the last thing we need.
I think the last thing we need right now is a war that's 9,500 miles away. It sounds kind of like Trump is saying he's not interested in defending Taiwan if they're invaded by China, which was the position of most presidents in recent memory. And for the record, Taiwan isn't 9,500 miles away from the U.S. It's 6,500 miles away, or about the same distance as Iran. You know, the place where Donald Trump decided we did need a war for reasons he has never effectively explained. So I guess Trump wasn't interested in standing up for Taiwan on this trip, but maybe he was just saving all his leverage for the stuff that really matters to the folks he likes to call his people. I mean, after all, Trump has spent years making big promises to parts of his base about how he would specifically stand up for them against China. Promises like this one, which Trump made on the campaign trail just a few years ago.
I will ban communist China from buying up American farmland and other critical infrastructure in the United States. Have to do it. You have to do it.
So Trump promised he would ban China from buying up U.S. farmland. He said, you have to do it. So did he do it? Did he keep that promise?
Chinese nationals have been buying up thousands and thousands of acres of farmland, ranch land, and land near military installations.
Look, it's not that I love it. You want to see farm prices drop? You want to see farmers lose a lot of money? Just take that out of the market. But they've had a lot of land for a long time.
There you go. Looks like Trump's not exactly keeping that promise he made on the campaign trail either. Look, Donald Trump talked a lot of big talk about how he would be tough on China as president. But at the end of this trip, it seems like he's done really nothing for his voters, nothing for Taiwan, nothing to end his war in Iran. The only things he seems to have done was compliment the leader of the Chinese Communist Party for his good looks and his height, I guess. After all that, what does Donald Trump want us to believe he got out of this trip? What was our big success?
What's the most significant, specific thing you walk away from here for the U.S.?
I think the most important thing is relationship. It's all about relationship. I have a very good relationship with President Xi and with China. And it sounds like something that doesn't mean anything, but it's everything.
Can you imagine that guy sitting across from Xi Jinping? Unfortunately, we don't have to. I could not think of two better people to break down all of this madness with me and everything that just happened on that trip. Michael McFaul is the former U.S. ambassador to Russia. Barbara Starr is the legendary former Pentagon correspondent for CNN. Both of them have been on many trips, international trips with many leaders in the past. And I'm so grateful they're joining me now. Ambassador McFaul, let me start with you. I just outlined some of the biggest issues that were at stake during this visit. We talked about this late last night when the trip was still a bit ongoing. But as you looked, it's now over. What did Trump and really the United States get out of this trip?
Jen, you just summarized it brilliantly. That was a fantastic laydown. And I'm so glad you reminded everybody about what he said he was going to do with China. Remember, when he first ran for president, it was all about China. China's eating our lunch. China's taking our jobs. They're doing all these horrible things to us. And he used in that phrase, that clip you just showed, communist China, right? You never heard him use the word communist once on this trip. And I just think this flip is remarkable. And I hope his voters noticed it. I hope Republicans noticed it because for decades, the Republican Party was always saying, Democrats are weak on China, we're going to be tough. And now he has completely flipped. You could not do a bigger flip than what he said he was going to do from his first term. And you could say, well, okay, Mike, settle down. We got really important things we got to do. Therefore, he has to say nice things about the chairman of the Communist Party of China. He has to praise him as the great, great leader. We don't do that for our allies. We only do it for Putin and Xi Jinping. But he has to do it, Mike, because we have to get some concrete things done for the American people. But as you just showed, there's not a single concrete deliverable that makes the American people better off, more secure as a result of this trip. And that's, I think, makes it very bankrupt because everything was so sycophantic about what a great leader he was. You would hope you could translate that into something tangible. And I haven't seen it yet. Now, maybe there's something behind closed doors we'll learn about later, but I haven't seen it so far.
No, I haven't either. And usually you would see it because usually all of the work is done on the lead up to the trip and then the presidents announce things because all the work was done by cabinet members and others.
And when you step back and look at this entire trip, the speeches, the praise, the unanswered questions, the shifting positions, what becomes striking is not just what Donald Trump said in China, but what he didn't say. For years, Trump built a political identity around the idea that he alone could confront China from a position of strength. On the campaign trail, China was portrayed as America's greatest competitor, sometimes even its greatest threat. He promised toughness, leverage, confrontation, and results. That message became a cornerstone of his appeal to millions of voters who believed the United States had been outmaneuvered economically and geopolitically for decades. But this visit painted a very different picture. Instead of confrontation, viewers saw admiration. Instead of hard commitments, they heard ambiguity. And instead of concrete policy victories, there appeared to be a heavy focus on personal chemistry and symbolism. Now, diplomacy is complicated. Every president, regardless of party, has had to balance strength with strategy when dealing with China. Public flattery between world leaders is not new. Sometimes it's tactical, sometimes it's calculated, sometimes it's simply part of maintaining open communication between two nuclear powers with enormous influence over the global economy. But critics are asking an important question tonight. Where exactly were the deliverables? There was no major breakthrough on the Strait of Hormuz crisis, no clear commitment regarding Taiwan, no indication of a tougher policy on Chinese land ownership in the United States, despite years of campaign rhetoric promising exactly that. And perhaps most importantly, there was no clear explanation of how this trip materially improved the lives, security, or economic outlook of ordinary Americans. At the same time, supporters of Trump may argue that relationships themselves matter in international politics. They may say reducing tensions with Beijing is preferable to escalating them. They may believe avoiding direct confrontation lowers the risk of global instability at a moment when the world is already dealing with conflict, inflation, and uncertainty. And that raises a deeper issue Americans are now wrestling with. What does strength actually look like in modern foreign policy? Is it measured through aggressive rhetoric and public pressure? Or is it measured through quiet diplomacy and maintaining strategic relationships behind closed doors? And if campaign promises change once leaders enter office, how should voters judge those changes? Those are not small questions. They go far beyond one trip or one administration. They speak directly to America's role in the world and how citizens define leadership during a period of rising global tension. There's also an emotional layer to all of this that shouldn't be ignored. Many Americans are exhausted by endless geopolitical conflict, economic anxiety, and political division. People want clarity. They want consistency. And above all, they want leaders who say what they mean and mean what they say. This trip, fairly or unfairly, left many viewers with a sense of contradiction between the image that was sold during the campaign and the reality they just witnessed on the world stage. So now the question moves back to the American public. Did this visit demonstrate strategic diplomacy or political backtracking? Did it reduce global risk or expose a gap between rhetoric and action? And perhaps most importantly, what should accountability look like when campaign promises collide with governing realities? Those debates are only beginning. If you found this report insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real, fact-based news commentary.